Hello everyone and welcome to another college football preview. So today we'll be looking at the Purdue Boilermakers. This is a team that looks to bounce back from a 4-8 season last year after going 9-4 in 2022 and then, 2021 and then 8-6 in 2023. So obviously 2 8+ win seasons. And last year, obviously, they took a step back, which is expected. I mean, at Purdue, I'm a Purdue fan. We kind of know how that's going to go. You're not going to be, competing for a Big Ten title every single year. It's incredible that they did 2 years in a row, obviously. But either way, chance to kind of reload. This year is not going to be easy. We'll go into that kind of later about the schedule. And again, yeah, but anyway, obviously they're coached by Ryan Walters, who in his first season went 4-8. But I will say this: I did like kind of the way that the team played, very hard nosed. And although they didn't win, they only won 4 games. And a lot of them, they were at least competitive, even in games where the score didn't necessarily say it. But like against Michigan, they kept that game a lot closer. Same with Iowa, that game was close. Ohio State, they got blown out of the water, but they kept a lot of games close, even in losses. But either way, let's now look at the key players. So first, we'll start with quarterback Hudson Card. Obviously, last year he dealt with some injuries. Not only one of them to one of his shoulders, but then I think there was even a game where he was sick. So it was just one of those things where he just never really got into rhythm, and I think that really did affect his some of his play. And although he didn't have a terrible season, he had a completion percentage of 58.9, threw for 2,387 yards, 15 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. He also got 203 yards and 5 touchdowns on the ground as well. So not a terrible season, but again, didn't really ever find his rhythm. At running back, Devin Mockabee and Reggie Love III will be their 2 top backs. Mockabee last year, early in the season, kind of was plagued with some turnover issues and just some... that one against Wisconsin where he picked up the ball not realizing it was still a live ball, that was kind of tough. But other than that, had a couple games where he couldn't hold on to the ball. But near the end of the year, he got it together. He ended up with 172 carries for 807 yards and 6 touchdowns. Then Reggie Love III, he is a transfer from Illinois, so kind of, in a way, he's already familiar with Ryan Walters, obviously being his not as much, obviously, defensive coordinator, but either way, he was at Illinois, and so was Coach Walters there for a while, so obviously familiar with kind of the culture and the setup. He last year had 116 carries for 567 yards and 4 touchdowns for the Illini. At wide receiver, their top 3 guys will be Cam Brown, C.J. Smith, and Jamal Erdine Jr., And Purdue fans, if you're saying, who are these guys? I don't remember their name. I don't remember any of these guys from last season. Well, you'd be correct, because none of them were on the roster last season. Losing Deion Burks and T.J. Sheffield, kind of their top 2 guys last year is really hurt, kind of hurt. And then, but they did bring these guys off from the transfer portal. Cam Brown last year played at UCLA, where he had 13 receptions for 163 yards and a touchdown. Meanwhile, C.J. Smith last played at Georgia. He really didn't play too much. He only had 6 receptions for 116 yards last year. And Erdine last year actually had a pretty decent year at Florida Atlantic. He had 39 receptions for 570 yards and 6 touchdowns. Offensively, the Boilers are projected to score around 24.8 points and get around 374.5 yards of total offense a game. Meanwhile, on defense, the Boilers bring back one of the better defensive backs in the Big Ten. And Dylan Thieneman obviously had a freshman All-American season last year, and he's definitely on the projected All-American list this year. In his freshman year, he had 106 tackles and 6 interceptions. Just an incredible first year. Delivered some giant legal hits. That's the big thing. They're legal. I don't think he ever got... he delivered some giant hits last year, and I don't believe he ever got ejected for targeting, which, if you think about it, that's huge. In today's game, to be able to deliver legal hard hits is a very big thing. Then they also bring back Kendron Jenkins, who recorded 7.5 sacks last year, so obviously he'll be able, he can take an elevated role with some of the guys they lost in the transfer portal again on defense. On defense, the Boilers are projected to give up 33.5 points and 413.5 yards of total offense a game. So now that we're done looking kind of at stats and projected stats, so to say, we'll now look at kind of their schedule moving forward. Purdue's schedule, well, it's not going to be easy. As a team that, again, you're kind of going into a second-year head coach with a team that, you're just starting to bring your guys in. Well, here's your task. The sixth hardest schedule, according to Phil Steele's computers. This is the sixth hardest schedule in the country, and it's just not easy. There's, even their non-conference games, they play two teams that were in the top 10 at points last year, and Notre Dame and Oregon State, and then obviously playing a couple other teams that'll probably be in playoff contention as well. But either way, let's get to it. So it starts out kind of with an easy game on August 31st. This game actually was originally scheduled on September 7th, but then I think they moved it back. I thought that made sense. You want to play on the opening weekend of the season. I thought it was kind of weird when they originally had it on September 7th, but I was happy to see it move back so they can play the first week of the season. And it's against in-state opponent, Indiana State, so yeah, it should be a pretty easy game, a chance to just hit a guy in a different colored jersey and to, or different color, just different jersey, I should say. Just a chance to get tuned up because, yeah, then they have a bye week after that, so they'll get 2 weeks in preparation to play Notre Dame, which should be a pretty good game. Obviously, this will be a good measuring stick game to see, how far have they really come since last year. Obviously, again, Ryan Walters in his second season. This is the kind of game that historically Purdue coaches have kind of been able to prove themselves against. Obviously, Joe Tiller, one of his big signature wins in his first year was against Notre Dame. Obviously, this is Walter's second year, but either way, Notre Dame is a game where you can really prove that, hey, this program's turning a corner. And you don't even, and I will say this, it doesn't even necessarily have to be win, but if you compete, show that this team is getting better, it'll be a big win for them, even if the scoreboard doesn't say it. Then the next week, they have to go to Corvallis to play Oregon State. This should be a pretty tough one. Obviously, I know that Oregon State lost some guys from last year with Jonathan Smith leaving to go to Michigan State, but they still should be a pretty decent team. Obviously, they're going to have there's kind of an interesting situation with them in their conference kind of alignment, so to say, but either way, it'll be interesting to see how that game goes. Then they come home to play Nebraska on September 28th, and this game, well, it should be interesting. Obviously, last year this game got chippy. I even almost had forgotten completely about that until I was just kind of doing my preview. Kind of when I was writing this. It was kind of one of those things where I'm like, oh yeah, these two teams got in almost like fights last year during this game. I think that Ryan Walters playing at Colorado, obviously Nebraska's a huge rival. I think that he gave that vibe to his players, and it ended up causing a situation where I think it kind of made things a little bad. So, hopefully they can keep their cool better at home this year and try to get a win. The next game they will play will be against Wisconsin. They have to go to Camp Randall, so that'll be a tough one. Purdue hasn't beaten Wisconsin since 2003, but that win was at Camp Randall, so maybe they can stop the streak or end the streak where it's I guess it's technically started at Ross-Ade, but either way, kind of end the streak where the streak, last time they won. Either way, I don't know where I was going with that. It would make more sense for Ross-Ade. Yeah. Either way, then the Boilers travel to Champaign to fight for the Canada against Illinois. This one is just a pretty easy travel for Purdue. In fact, they get to go by that Covington Beef House that Zach Edey talked about in his kind of his favorite Big Ten road trips. Those rolls they have are pretty good, but that's kind of a thing that they're going to talk about. But either way, yeah, big battle for the Canada against Illinois on October 12th, so we'll see how that ends up going. That'll be a good measuring stick too to see if Purdue can win that game. I think it'll be okay. This team is where we need it to be, where they're beating teams like Illinois, and I know Illinois should be back to being a better team. So either way, then on October 19th, it's back to Ross-Ade as the Oregon Ducks come to town. For the first time as a Big Ten opponent. Obviously, they've played Oregon before. I remember back in 2008, 2009, they played them those 2 years. It was a home and home. Both those games came down to the wire with Oregon winning, and I think it was double overtime at Ross-Ade in 2008. And then in 2009, Purdue actually could have tied the game late, but didn't get a 2-point conversion. So obviously, both those two games are very exciting, and Oregon should be a pretty good team, so another interesting game for Purdue. Then the Boilers get their second bye week before hosting Northwestern, and this game being in November, the weather always seems to be, when these two teams play later in the season, it seems like the weather's always kind of iffy, so that could play a factor in this game for sure. Then they go on the road to play Ohio State, where they have not won since 1988. Although Purdue, it's been well documented that Purdue has some success against Ohio State at Ross-Ade, that does not translate at all to Columbus. Again, 1988 is the last time they won, and a lot of those games, they aren't even close. So, yeah. And then they get to, then after that, they get to come back to Ross-Ade to play Penn State. That's going to be another really, really tough game. Obviously, Penn State will most likely be trying to fight for, they might be on a fringe playoff team and looking to try to continue to, get wins so they can be in that top 12. I guess technically with the way the playoff system is going to be, it's going to be 11 because the group of 5 champ will also get a spot. But either way. Then the Boilers will travel to Spartan Stadium to play Michigan State on November 23rd. That's a place where they haven't really done that great. There's been some real competitive games. They just haven't exactly found a way to win there. And then on November 30th, it's the battle for the Old Oaken Bucket against IU and Bloomington. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Again, I think this Purdue schedule, it's rough. Again, you got Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon State, who's in the top 10. Again, they may not be as good as they were last year, but it's on the road up in Corvallis. Then you got Notre Dame, Wisconsin. I didn't see Iowa on the schedule, which is the first year Purdue hasn't played Iowa in forever, because even when they were in the Legends and Leaders and they were in the opposite division, that was Purdue's rival. So obviously that'll be an interesting thing not playing them. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be a tough schedule and a tough road. So if they can get to that 5-win mark, even if they miss a bowl game, I would say that's a successful season given the strength of the schedule. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next video. Bye.